let's talk about this claim. So yesterday you guys came to me and said, Hasan, why are you silent on Iran? Your silence on Iran speaks volumes and things of that nature. Now, of course, I've covered the story that has been happening in Iran, the Iranian people protesting against their fundamentalist, authoritarian, theocratic government for, quite a while, as I do regularly. But this was one thing that I saw everywhere on the internet, and it was actually worrisome how quickly it took on, it just became mainstream. This idea that Iran was going to impose a death penalty on, Iran was going to impose a death penalty on nearly 15,000 protesters. Now, this is not true as it stands. It can become true, but it currently is not. And from what I understand, Justin Trudeau also tweeted this out and then deleted it. Ian Bremer, Iranian parliament votes overwhelmingly to execute 14,000 arrested protesters. A global response, starting with the G20, must be severe and immediate. So here is Sune Engel Rasmussen, who says, extraordinary lack of basic fact-checking. Iran has not sentenced 15,000 protesters to death, as a number of celebrities and political leaders are saying. Here are the facts as we know them. Iran has arrested about 15,000 protesters, according to rights groups who also say nearly 350 protesters have been killed, which I mentioned as well, including 50 minors. It has sentenced one protester to death so far as we know, which I also mentioned yesterday. Sometimes your W seems straight scripted, lol. Yeah, it's not that. First of all, this is a bleak situation where misinformation against America's foreign enemies spreads so quickly, and so therefore it's not necessarily a W, it's an L for everybody. The claim that Iran has sentenced 50,000 protesters to death stems from a call by 227 of the country's 290 MPs for tougher, quicker sentences for protesters, including potentially, but not limited to, the death penalty, which has been used in the past against a limited number of protesters. The first protester that was sentenced to death, by the way, which can be for numerous different reasons, but the first one that was sentenced to death so far, which is still unjustifiable, I'm anti-capital punishment, as you know, was sentenced for, according to the fairly corrupt Iranian judicial process, he was sentenced to death for public disturbances that includes burning a building, I believe. It's pretty, it's just I'm going to be as cut and dry as possible here. It's still bullshit. No one should be fucking sentenced to death. That's psychotic. So, that is the Iranian government. But the claim in and of itself, especially when we talk about a horrifically authoritarian, fundamentalist, theocratic government, I don't think you need to make up additional shit. I don't think you need to make up additional shit to make them look worse than they actually are, because they're pretty fucking bad. It's literally up there, right? Iran's parliament does not issue legal sentences. That's up to the judiciary. Lawmakers, however, do issue hardline calls or write letters on the regular for the judiciary or the government, which are never implemented into law or policy. This correction is not meant to whitewash or excuse anything Iran is doing. We at the Wall Street Journal have reported nearly every day for the past 2 months on the oppression of basic rights in Iran. Scores have been killed, thousands arrested. The Iranian state is known for sentencing protesters in trials without due process and is widely accused of using torture and violence to obtain forced confessions, which are inadmissible in normal, courts. We should expect that to happen in the coming weeks and months as well, but misinformation needs to be addressed. This case is symptomatic of how many Westerners with no expertise in Iran view the mullahs. I doubt the high-profile think tankers and heads of state would be as quick to issue such erroneous statements about almost any other country. That's not true. North Korea is another country that they would do that for. It is China is another country that they would do that for. This is a major blind spot that has, this is a major blind spot. Pakistan, Afghanistan, these are countries, Russia, these are countries that have been declared foreign enemy states, right? Foreign nations that are enemies to the United States of America. If you're on the official bad guy list, it does not matter. Pakistan is not necessarily on the official bad guy list, but you know what I'm saying. Venezuela, Cuba, these guys are. Okay, China, Russia. If you're on the rogue nations, not a part of America club lists, not a part of the America list, you will 100% get hit with any number of different propaganda talking points, and the average person has no capacity to like think about it clearly. And, you know, it's just how it is. It is how it is. I think that there is a gigantic blind spot, and that blind spot is deliberate. I think that that is not a blind spot that we arrived at on an accident. That is a fundamental role that manufacturing consent within the media plays. American media works as an arm of capital. They work to normalize some of the oppression that you experience under capitalism. They also work to declare American enemies to be like outright horrifying, monstrous, monolithic beings, so that no matter what kind of like unjustifiable bloodshed America may in the future or may not, or may in the future decide to engage in these countries, then all the Americans are already geared up into thinking that that is justifiable. Okay? The Islamic Republic seeks to gain support from the Iranian population by claiming to be a victim of Western propaganda and lies. Nothing helps this claim more than an unfounded allegation by a Western head of state that is so easily dismissed. It's not even like preemptive propaganda for potential future war crimes. If you know anything about the state of Iran, you already recognize, if you have like a sense of humanity inside of you that you haven't been, that hasn't been destroyed in your brain, you recognize that sanctions are collective punishment, and that sort of collective punishment is done so that political instability happens in these countries. And also on top of that, holy fuck, New York Times literally just coming out and saying it, dude. That's crazy. That's a crazy fucking, wow, what a title for an article. I'm sorry, I got ADHD'd here for a second, but Western allies look to Ukraine as testing ground for weapons. Ukraine has become a testing ground for state-of-the-art weapons and information systems that Western political officials and military commanders predict could shape warfare for generations to come. I like that that is the title, right? But like the spin on it is like positive. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, I mean, this is literally just Iraq and Afghanistan. You know what I mean? From the jump. They're doing Afghanistan shit. And it's even better now because like they can still send their contractors. And, there isn't like too much. The tax dollars are directly going to the R&D for the weapons. It's a testing ground for weapons. No Americans are dying, so the political punishments are like less. Because when you don't have like veterans coming back from the Ukrainian war whose legs are fucking blown up, or who are brain broken from fighting in the trenches in Ukraine, all of a sudden there's less political punishment for that at home. You could just throw as many Ukrainians who do have a true and just interest in emancipation. I mean, it's not really that state of the art. It's drones dropping missiles the size of grenades instead of a car window like a plane would directly onto Wagner Group, usually playing dead because they hear the drones overhead. I mean, that's one of the weapons that you're speaking of. I'm just saying that like it's a gangbusters opportunity for America. Oh, I was talking about Iran, which we can talk about a little bit more today, but like no matter what happens, like there is going to be a fuckload of misinformation that goes around in situations like that. Like the Iranian government is fucking unhinged, and the unfortunate reality is that you have some of the worst elements on the pro-America side within the Iranian government as well, like pro-Saudi regime weirdos like at the MEK side. Remember John Bolton, Mr. January 6th was not a coup d'etat. I know a coup d'etat. I've done many of them. Some successfully, some unsuccessfully. Like his favorite fucking group, his favorite constituency, and his favorite pet project was always to try to institute regime change in Iran. And not for the better, mind you. Certainly not for the betterment of Iranian people. And Big Homie was always a fan of MEK. And a lot of the information that you get in Western media that's coming out of Iran, unfortunately, are not coming from legitimate sources, but instead from Saudi-backed sources. These are all nonstop. This is a never-ending fucking struggle, especially because the Iranian people deserve emancipation from their oppressive, authoritarian, fundamentalist regime. And also, they do not deserve to have an American puppet, military state take over instead. There are so many, dude. Look, there's just the thing is, like, no matter what happens, like, at this point, I just saw a recent video of yours on Ukraine. I hate war, but I also believe that a NATO intervention in Ukraine should be the best resolution from an EU perspective. Dude, what happened? Did my entire chat get fucking polluted with, like, Langley operatives or some shit? Like, what is happening? This is why I have gray hair. Okay? Man, if you want to get nuked, okay, go ahead. Go suck on a nuke yourself personally. Like, you don't have to put up the rest of your fucking country. You don't have to put the rest of the fucking planet into nuclear holocaust. Like, you can go die in Donbass if you want. It's cold as fuck out there. Why are you trying to bring everyone else into it, you know? I don't understand this take. Like, motherfuckers would be like, no, from an EU perspective, actually, like, I love NATO intervention is a necessity. It's like, first of all, America doesn't even want that. Like, you are to the right of America. Just think about that for a second. Just think, like, where your mentality is when the American State Department's like, hold on now. What the fuck do you mean? We're not trying to do Article 5. Anyway, leftists in the U.S. think it's cool to reduce the Iranian people's struggle to being mere puppets of U.S. sanctions or the CIA Saudi-funded media. You are dismissing an incredibly progressive movement against one of the most reactionary states on the planet. It can be a global model. Wait, what? Who are these leftists that you speak of? Are they in the room with us? Are you talking about me? Because I've never shied away from criticizing the Iranian regime routinely. Are they even around? Is that a real thing? Is there like a... What? I know you don't like TikTok, but she's been on it since day one and people in Iran have been censored. Of course people have been in Iran have been censored. They've also been getting brutalized by the government. Also, thousands of them have been arrested. A lot of the people that have been arrested are not arrested for fucking serious things. Some are. As is the case in any kind of fucking protest against a fucking authoritarian, brutal regime. And, you know, there's only one death sentence that has been issued thus far. And it was for a dude who was like, who burned down a building, which still unacceptable, by the way. Still bullshit. It's totally justifiable to fucking rise up against your brutal and awful authoritarian regime. I am in favor of that. As I have stated time and time again, but also at the same time, you see a lot of fucking shit. You see a lot of this whole, 15,000 people are going to get murdered tomorrow. Like, they're going to be executed tomorrow because it's that easy. It's that easy to just lie. All it takes is like one motherfucker to say like, this is happening. And then everyone is so geared, so conditioned into just jumping on it and promoting it. It's going to be 5. It's one person at the time of the 15,000. Now it's slated to be 5. Going to be more than that. Not going to be fine for the dude who gets the chop. Yeah, no shit. Not going to be fine for the also millions of fucking Iranian people that are not exactly fond of the current Iranian administration. You know what makes it worse, though? Sanctions that also cause further instability. Like punishing the people that are protesting the government for not protesting successfully enough. It's crazy. Oh, wait, I said 5 people. I didn't say it's fine that they're executing people. I said there's going to be 5 people slated for execution. Who's pushing the 50K number narrative? Dude, it could be any number of people. It could be Mossad. It could be Saudi Arabia. It could be America. There are a lot of, Western allies that are very much interested in, hamming up the narrative in Iran, regardless of how fucking bad things are already in the real world. You could just say exactly what's going on the ground, and it's still fucked up. Okay? You could say exactly what's going on the ground, and it's still fucking gruesome. But whenever there is a narrative, I think that whenever there is a foreign adversary on the bad guy list of the long list of like America's evil enemies, whenever some shit's popping off there, our media tends to go absolute Hambo, John Hambo mode. Iranian men and women are so desperate to gain attention from the Western media, they do cause disinformation sometimes, but their struggle is important. Their struggle is important, but I don't think it's like random Iranian men and women that are, on the ground making stuff up. Don't put this on them. It's not them that's fucking promoting this shit. 100% it's not them. Come on. Also, you said this is always the secondary conversation. Since you said sanctions don't work, what do you think about BDS and sanctions on Israel? Brother, Iran already has sanctions. Israel does not. Israel relies on American funds. Israel relies on American defense. Israel is an ally. Same with South Africa at the time when the apartheid was happening. Sanctions work against your allies. Sanctions don't work against foreign adversary nation states that are already conditioned into fucking gearing up for economic warfare. Like, no one thinks American sanctions on Israel is going to starve out the Israeli population and force them to fucking go and take matters in their own hands, which is the only way that America uses sanctions against foreign adversaries. The only goal for America's sanctions on foreign adversaries is to create instability on the ground and get the people so starving and so desperate that they'll fucking successfully pull off a revolution. And it's not like this is some secret conspiracy. American leadership says this all the time. They openly admit it. Like, American State Department heads regularly refer to sanctions as a success. And they say that the cause of the sanctions or the goal for the sanctions is ultimately to motivate the population into a state of disarray that they actually end up, pushing back against their authoritarian leaders. But I've yet to see it work. I have seen it work along other, on top of other extra pressures. It works if you are using it against an allied state like apartheid South Africa. It could technically work against an aligned or allied state like Israel, Saudi Arabia. But ultimately, sanctions fucked us up in Venezuela. Yes, it fucked the Venezuelan economy up. It fucked the Iranian economy up. It fucked the Russian economy up to a certain degree. Like, that's all that happens, though. It doesn't end up, toppling leaders. It's just unjustifiable and unnecessary cruelty that is simply experienced by all of the people that would otherwise be fucking, railing against their governments. Anyway, yeah, it's the people that are victims of said sanctions are always the same people that are victims of the brutal regimes that the sanctions are supposed to be targeted towards. Before you actually blast off, here are some positive vibes, Hasan. Oh my God. That's incredible. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. Very nice. Okay.